Revenge with Karen. The air inside a suburban mall at 6 a.m. smells like floor wax, stale Cinnabon frosting, and the slow, agonizing death of the American dream. There's a very specific kind of silence before the doors open, a low hum from the industrial HVAC units that seems to vibrate in your teeth, whispering that you're trapped in some kind of windowless, consumerist purgatory. I was standing in the middle of a trendy fast fashion hellhole, the kind that sells polyester rags to teenagers for the price of a lung. My knees were already popping. Towers of denim surrounded me, each pair needing to be folded into perfect geometric squares. To anyone walking by, I was just Paula, a 53-year-old seasonal hire with graying roots, sensible shoes, and the kind of invisible presence that makes people assume you own at least 4 cats and a collection of ceramic thimbles. The kind of woman who probably clips coupons for cat litter. What they don't see is the woman who owns the terrifyingly complex portfolio of commercial real estate leases that this entire mall sits on. They don't see the woman who could buy this store, burn it down for the insurance money, and sleep just fine on a mattress stuffed with settlement checks. But right now, I'm undercover. I'm in the trenches, folding jeans. I picked up a pair of distressed skinny fits. The fabric felt like sandpaper dipped in starch. I smoothed it out on the folding table, my movements mechanical. You're too slow, Paula. Seriously, a sloth on Xanax moves faster. Bye. The voice cut through the hum like a rusty saw. I didn't look up. I already knew who it was. Jared, the district manager. A man who looked like he'd been assembled from spare parts found in a frat house basement. He was 32, wore a suit that was too shiny and too tight, and had the kind of haircut that screamed, "I yell at waiters." I'm pacing myself, Jared, I said flatly. It's Black Friday. The rush hasn't even started. The rush starts when I say it starts. He slammed his hand on the table, messing up the 3 pairs of jeans I had just folded perfectly. This isn't a knitting circle. This is retail war. If you can't handle the heat, go work at a library. He leaned in close. I could smell his breath, a toxic mix of energy drinks and cheap peppermint vape juice. I need speed, Paula. I need agility. I don't need whatever geriatric stagnancy you're bringing to the floor. I stared at the ruined stack of jeans. A normal seasonal hire might have teared up. A normal hire would have apologized. I just smoothed the denim back out, quietly imagining his face pressed into a waffle iron. Understood, I said. Jared sneered, checking his watch, a fake Rolex that was probably turning his wrist green. I want this entire wall done in 20 minutes. If it's not, I'm writing you up. Write-ups on Black Friday mean termination. Do we understand each other, or do I need to draw you a diagram? Crystal clear, I replied. He stomped off toward the back office, already barking into his phone about margin compression and labor optimization, big words he used to hide the fact that he was drowning in incompetence. I went back to folding. The door to the mall corridor clicked open, and a man in a gray jumpsuit walked in carrying a ladder. Mike, the head of facility maintenance. He'd worked here for 20 years. He had a master key to everything. He stopped when he saw me, his eyes widening slightly. He started to lift his hand in a respectful wave, his mouth opening to say, "Good morning, Miss Vance." I gave him the slightest shake of my head. "Don't blow my cover." Mike froze. Smart man. He understood the jungle. He coughed, adjusted his ladder, and muttered, "Just fixing the light, ma'am," before hurrying off. Jared poked his head out of the office. "Who are you talking to, Paula? Stop socializing. Time is money." "Just the light bulb guy, Jared," I called back. "Light bulb guy doesn't pay your salary." "I do," he snapped. I smiled down at a pair of acid wash shorts. "Actually, Jared," I thought, the ghost of a laugh rising in my chest. "Through a series of shell companies and a triple net lease agreement signed in 2019, I pay your salary. I pay for the lights. I pay for the floor tiles you're standing on. And pretty soon, I'm going to make you pay for every single time you treated a human being like an overhead cost." The lights flickered once, buzzing loudly, as if the building itself was winking at me. The timer was ticking. Black Friday was coming. Jared had no idea he was standing on a trapdoor. To understand why I was enduring the verbal abuse of a man who probably uses 3-in-1 shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, we have to rewind 6 months. I was sitting in a conference room on the 40th floor of a tower in downtown Columbus. The table was mahogany, the water was sparkling, the lawyers billed $600 an hour. I wasn't wearing a polyester vest, I was wearing a silk blouse and a blazer that cost more than Jared's car. My attorney, David, slid a thick stack of documents across the table. "You're sure about this, Paula? It's a distressed asset. The mall's anchor stores are bleeding. Trenzy, specifically, is showing signs of corporate rot." "I know," I said, flipping through the pages. "That's why I want it. I wasn't always the shark at the head of the table. 10 years ago, I was a regional manager for a logistics firm. I gave them everything, missed birthdays, worked through the flu, fixed their messes. Then a new CEO came in. A guy just like Jared, all teeth and buzzwords. He fired me over a Zoom call to save 0.4% on the quarterly budget. Called me redundant. I swore, right then, I would never be at the mercy of a middle manager again. I took my severance, leveraged my savings, and started buying commercial paper. Turns out, I have a knack for real estate. I don't get emotional about bricks and mortar. I control the ground beneath the businesses. And if you control the ground, you control the world. The Trenzy chain is aggressive, David warned, tapping the lease agreement. They push for long terms, low maintenance responsibilities. They treat landlords like adversaries. I've looked at their financials, I said, picking up a pen. They're over-leveraged, cutting corners on safety to fund executive bonuses. They treat their staff like cattle. I don't just want the rent, David. I want to teach a lesson. I flipped to page 47, the boring section nobody reads. Add a rider, I said. Clause 12b, the emergency access and renovation clause. David frowned. That's standard boilerplate. Not this version, I said calmly. I want the right to immediate, unilateral closure of the premises if any safety violation is documented during a high-traffic period. No notice required. Immediate lockout. He looked at me over his glasses. Paula, that's a nuclear option. No tenant will sign that. They will, I said with a small smile, because I'm offering them the lease at 10% below market rate for the first year. A corporate algorithm will see the savings and auto-approve it. They won't. Read page 47. Guys like that never look at the foundation. Only the facade. He typed it in. We sent it over. 3 days later, Trenzy signed. They thought they'd fleeced a naive old lady. They had no idea they'd just handed me a kill switch. But having the switch wasn't enough. I needed to know when to pull it. I needed to know if they deserved it. So I created a fake resume, stripped of degrees, assets, history. I became Paula Vance, former cashier, seasonal hire. The interview was a joke. The assistant manager, Brittany, a nervous girl who looked like she hadn't slept since October, didn't even check my references. She just checked for a pulse and handed me a vest. Welcome to the family, she whispered, glancing around like the walls had ears. Just try to stay out of Jared's way. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've been watching, gathering data, and I realized something. Jared wasn't just a bad boss. He was a liability, a walking, talking lawsuit waiting to happen. Back in the present, the smell of burnt coffee pulled me out of my thoughts. I smoothed the last pair of jeans. The renovation clause sat in a safe deposit box 3 miles away, but the trigger for it. That was right here, in my pocket. A smartphone loaded with evidence. By 7 a.m., the store was fully staffed. 12 of us, mostly college kids, a couple of single moms, and me. Jared stood on a step stool near the register, addressing the team like a budget version of General Patton. Listen up, geniuses, he clapped. Today is the Super Bowl. If we don't hit 50,000 by noon, heads are going to roll. And I promise you, my head is staying right here. He made a slicing motion across his throat and laughed. No one else did. Brittany, she flinched. The fitting rooms are clear, but fitting room 3 smells weird. I think there's a sewage backup. Maybe we should close it. Close it, Jared snapped. We don't close revenue centers on Black Friday. Spray some air freshener. If a customer complains, tell them it's the rustic industrial scent. I mentally logged it. Sewage leak. Health code violation. And you, he pointed at Kevin, a trembling stock boy, tuck your shirt in. I'm docking you 15 minutes. But I clocked in 5 minutes ago. Then you're working 10 minutes for free. Consider it tuition. Wage theft. Labor violation. The file in my head was getting thicker by the minute. Then he turned back to me. Paula, Grandma, how are those arthritic fingers? They're working fine, I said, smiling tightly. Good. Go to the stockroom. Fire exits blocked with inventory. Move it. Move it where? I don't care. Stack it in front of the electrical panel if you have to. I paused. That wasn't just bad management. That was dangerous. Jared, I said quietly, blocking the electrical panel is a fire hazard. If a breaker blows, you can knit us a new one, he snapped. I don't pay you to think. He leaned in, eyes gleaming. You need this job. You're disposable. Now move the boxes. He walked away. I watched him go. The anger in my chest wasn't hot, it was cold. Precise. He thought I was trapped. He had no idea I wasn't looking at those boxes as work. I was looking at them as evidence. I walked into the stockroom. The fire exit was completely blocked, a death trap waiting to happen. I didn't move a single box. Instead, I pulled out my phone. Click. The blocked exit. Click. The unstable stacks. Click. The exposed wiring near the water heater. I wasn't just an employee anymore. I was documenting a crime scene. My shift ended at 2 p.m. I walked out past frantic shoppers fighting over discounted blenders and got into my car, a 2024 Range Rover parked across the street at a luxury hotel to maintain the illusion. The moment the door shut, I exhaled. I peeled off the vest and tossed it onto the passenger seat like it was contaminated. At home, a quiet, mid-century house tucked inside a gated community, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my desk. It was time to update the file. The photos imported, crisp and damning. The blocked exit, the leaking ceiling, the video of Jared screaming at Brittany until she cried. I opened a folder labeled, Project Black Friday. This wasn't just documentation. It was a case. Inventory discrepancies, stolen stock, audio, recordings of skipped breaks. I had enough to get him fired. But that wasn't the goal. Men like Jared don't fall, they fail upward. No, I needed to make him radioactive. I pulled up the lease again. Clause 12B, the kill switch. I drafted an email to the city fire marshal. Attached everything. Then I stopped. Didn't send it. Not yet. The timing had to be perfect. Because this wasn't about punishment. It was about impact.